I'm going to continue on this theme of internationalization and make things even more dynamic. In one drawback of this technique that we saw before was that you have to make multiple nib files for every language that you want to support. If you recall, I made one in English, then I chose another language, Spanish, and I show you how to. It automatically created a Spanish nib file. So if I have many languages, it'll make many nib files. Now you gotta maintain them, right? As you make changes, improve them, you gotta then edit each one of them. Because if you edit one, it's not gonna automatically update the rest of them. So later on, if you decide you wanna modify, then you gotta modify the English one, the Spanish one, and so on. So that's not a very good idea. We want something even more maintainable. So how's that gonna be? I'm gonna start with an easy example. I'm gonna take my existing, view one, add a button to it. When I click on a button, it'll open up a dialog box. Then I'm gonna use the internationalization technique, files.strings, to maintain the labels of the buttons and the dialog boxes and the message in that screen. Move it in there, make it a little bit more dynamic. And then from there on, I'm gonna make even more dynamic. I'm gonna add another button to view one. When I click on it, it goes to another view. View 4, it flips that screen and all that stuff. And that view is not going to come from a nib file. It's going to come from a programmatically created view. So the whole view is going to be programmatically created. The labels, the text boxes, the buttons, the click events of the buttons, it's all going to be done programmatically. And the labels are going to be maintained in file.strings, pulling them using that technique. Then as many languages I have, I just gotta maintain a different string file, a resource file for it. And that's all I'll have to do. So if you support 100 languages, you will have to maintain 100 of these files, but not different view files. So that'll reduce the work a lot more. So that's where we are headed. So first of all, let me go back to the view one nib file English. That's the one. Should double click it? No, I don't want to double click. Show localization string. I'm going to add another button to it. Change its text. Show dialog. And now we're going to wire up the IB action for it. Okay, now what do I need to do? I need to click here. Show assistant editor. This should be, that .h file. Now click on the button, touch up inside. Now click the view one.h. I need view one.m. Yep, so I should have on show dialog on click. So when I come over here, I'm going to show a dialog box. Now here's the command UI alert. I'm going to call it alert. UI alert view alloc. Then init with title, my title. Message is just my message. Delegate is nil. Cancel button I'm going to call it OK. Other buttons are nil, then alert.show. That should show me an alert box, or a dialog box as they call it. Let's see how will that look. Now here's the other problem when I did the internationalization. You see in the design view everything looks okay. In the runtime it does not look okay. So that's another thing why we wanna make these views programmatically. There seems to be some kind of a bug in, or maybe I didn't do something right, but and anyway, that's another issue. Why we wanna programmatically create them. And there's nothing wrong with drag and drop, creating views with drag and drop. Programmatic is another way, so I don't want to offend anybody who likes the drag and drop way of doing things. Show dialog, it says my title, my message, okay. Now these titles, we want to pull them from, the technique programmatically, instead of, right now it is hard-coded, right? My title, my message, okay. We don't want it here hard-coded, we want it in file.strings. So let's see how that goes. See this, how you see how it looks okay here in the design view, and also now that I added a button there, that button does not exist in the Spanish version. That's where we are going next, but first of all we want to just programmatically make it more flexible, the dialog box. Now if we had several languages, what would we do? I mean, it'll keep popping up the English version, right? You will have to have an if statement and check what the user's settings are, and if it's English, show this, if it's Spanish, show another one, and you keep going on and on. We don't want that. So I'll be right back in a few to show you how to do. So I'm going to open up file.strings, and I'm going to create a whole three of them. One, I'm going to call it my title. The next one is going to be my message. I'm going to copy and paste it into the Spanish version as well. And as you guys know, it's not really Spanish, I know it. Just to distinguish, I'm going to type in the ES for Espanol. So that's where I'm going to maintain my strings. Now I'm going to copy and paste this technique of pulling. I'm going to close this one. I don't need the header. No, not that. I want this line. One for my title, one for my string, and one for the OK button. So I'm going to call this my title, my We don't have any digits like the previous example, just a string. I apologize. We want this line, not that line. Apologies again. No, we need this line. NS string my title, NS localized string from table, name, file, and comment. This is the line we need to pull that. And of course, this was the name of the key there. These three values are coming from my title, my message. Okay, and it's gonna put my title, pull this and that. Now I can get rid of this and put in my title instead of the message, hard-coded, flexible. See, OK is coming from here, and OK is getting pulled from, oh sorry, it should be OK there, and next one should be file. File is file.strings. File here means I'm expecting a file called file.strings, and that has a value called OK, and pull that one up for me to use. So now I'm going to try it. Hopefully it'll work. There you go. Show dialog, my title, my message. OK. Now I'm going to switch my language in settings to Spanish and come back. Okay, so I just changed my settings to Spanish. There you go. My title, the Spanish version. To distinguish, I don't know the Spanish. To make the distinguish between the two, I just put ES there. So now you see the same code is pulling the Spanish title just because I changed my settings in my iPhone to Spanish. And that's how I did that. Just go back in here, adjust T, general, international, change it back to English. Okay, and then whenever you do that, it's gonna stop the program, stop it, run it again. Now I'm back to English. And now you see the English version just by changing the settings, and the code has not changed at all. You see, same old code. So that's no if statement, no nothing. Only these three are doing the magic, pulling it from here or there. What I'm going to do is create a whole new button, view 5, and have a button. When I click on that button, I go to view 5, just like I go to view 2, view 3. But once I click on that button, I'm going to programmatically do everything. The view 5 is going to be created programmatically. So I need a button. I need its go to view 5. I need to open the assistant editor. Click on that button, connection inspector, touch up inside. And click. Now if I look at view1.h, I should have, now here I'm going to do something to load it up. Now before I load it up, I need to create a class view5, and I've already done that. You would just right click, add a new file, Objective-C class, next, name it view5, subclass of UI view controller, uncheck this and that, click on next, and that added view5 for me. Now we're gonna put them all together. Okay, so here's what I've done so far. We added a button, go to view5, then in the project I added a view5 class, which is a subclass of UI view controller. Then in the view1 I imported the view5.h, created a property view5 based on that, synthesized the view5, go to view5 on click, I add this code in there, of course to check, very first time view5 is going to be nil, so I want to initialize it. Next time I don't want to do that, so that's why this if statement is there, and this command is there to make that transition effect that we've been working with. View5 is every time it's the same, as we had before in the go to view2 on click, and the only thing that's changed is view5 here. Yeah, rest of the code is exactly the same. View5, view5, view5. Then in view5.m, view did load, I have logged nslog file saying view5 did load, and I am going to run this file to see where I am at this point. And here's my go to view5. You see how they are all overlapping? And that's one of the problems. There's some bug or something in there. When I added a new language, it messed up my view, and I've been talking about it. It looks good in the design time, but it doesn't good looks all messed up at the runtime. I'm not sure what's going on there, but that's a bug in there, or maybe I did made a mistake. Anyway, so I'm trying to work with that the topic at hand. Go to view5. When I click on it, you see it did try to fire it. View5, view did load, but it came back here because there's no code in view5. Actually, there should be some code over here creating the view class, adding labels and buttons and all that stuff. That isn't there. But we can come to this point. So now we gotta take from this point and move forward. Okay, so this is what I have so far. Go to view5. I click on it, you have a little transition effect. Now all these buttons should disappear, so that's the next thing we gotta fix. But we have the go to view1 button. It's a little bit too long. We'll see where that comes from. If I click on it, it goes back to view1. Now in the strings file, I have added a go to view5 also for the Spanish version. So I take care of these two files. In view5, and this is what's going on. I added a curly brace left, right, and I define a UI button, an instance of UI button called U2 go to view 5 button. A property non-atomic retain IB outlet. Now what's that for? That's the homework. UI button type go to view 5 button. So you got to do this. Then this is Objective C, gotta define it here like this. Then a property it. Then also define in the interface the signature of the IB action when the button 5 will be clicked. We're going to call it go to view 5 on click. So that's the signature of this button when that will be clicked. Now in here I implement that function go to view 5 on click, and we'll come back to it in a second. I synthesized it. This property up here has been synthesized here. I have overridden the init function. I think we saw this before. Self super init. The parent class's init function. I have a little log function to say view5 supervise. I check to see if the self was initialized properly. Then I return it. Within, if everything was initialized properly, I that go to view 5 button, I initialize it. Now button with type UI button type round rectangle. Now for the go to view 5 button, I'm adding a target. When I click it, what's going to happen? In self, within this file, there's a method called go to view 5. That's what that thing is doing. Add selector, go to view 5, click. And you've seen that a minute ago. And for what? For control event, UI control event touch up inside. When I click on this button, then in this file, there's a function called go to view 5 on click. Now, this is the trick that we've been working all this along. Instead of hard coding the title here, I am going to pull it from the file. .string file is defined in there. There's an entry in that file called go to view 5. Pull that into the title. Then go to view 5 buttons title, set it to that. So title is being defined over here, is being pulled from file.string. Go to view 5 right here. It's going to pull go to space view 1. That's what that's all about. And now it's going to be dynamic. So whenever I change my language in my properties, I'm gonna get a different button, and I'm gonna try that next. I'm gonna fire up the simulator and change my language. It's gonna crash. I'm gonna click stop, click on run. I think this is not gonna, I'm gonna have to. Okay, so I'm gonna fire it up. I have changed my language. Go to view 5. You see, go to view 1, the Spanish version. And I made a few changes right there. You see, there was a spelling mistake. Go to view 1, go to view 1. I made them consistent. In the previous screenshot you may have seen there was a difference here. So they should both be the same in both languages, only the key is the same, value is different. That's one thing I changed. Over here I corrected it. The case does matter. So there we are. So now the only thing I have duplicate are two string files, one for each language. The view 5 never changes, and anything else does not change. Very maintainable.